Dr. Tony Evans had always been seen as one of the most respected pastors in America. His name carried weight not only in church circles, but also in millions of homes that heard his voice every week. People admired him for his sermons, his books, and the way he spoke about faith with power and passion. For years, his image stood strong, perfect, untouchable, and larger than life. But behind that image, things were happening that no one saw. Things that would later change how people looked at him forever. Behind the pulpit, while the world saw strength, his home was carrying the weight of quiet storms. For a long time, the Evans family stayed silent. They ignored the whispers, the rumors, and the questions that never seemed to stop. But this time was different. The silence finally broke when his wife spoke out. Her words didn't come from anger or scandal. They came from pain, honesty, and a need to show that even spiritual leaders live through struggles that no one talks about. She said that people often saw Tony Evans as a man who never broke down, who never doubted, who always had an answer for everything. But the truth was far from that. She admitted that even in a family full of faith, there were moments of distance, arguments that left scars, and nights when they wondered if they could keep going. The public image of perfection never existed. "We are just like everyone else," she said. "We face pressure, fear, and heartbreak." People expected her to defend his perfect image, but instead, she chose to show his humanity. Yet, her words didn't come from bitterness. They came from love, the kind that survives through cracks and struggles. She said Tony carried more pressure than anyone could imagine. When the lights of the church went out and the people went home, he often sat in silence, lost in thought, praying not just for others, but for himself. Sometimes she looked at him and saw not a leader, but a man trying to stay strong for everyone while he was breaking inside. The world expected him to always be perfect, and that expectation fell heavily not just on him, but on his whole family. His children felt it, his wife felt it. Every mistake, every misunderstanding, every small family problem became something people talked about. The church loved him, but the shadow of that love also brought judgment. People expected the Evans family to be flawless, and when they weren't, whispers started again. This story wasn't about a dark secret. It was about the price a man and his family paid for being placed too high on a pedestal. She also opened up about how their marriage faced moments of deep struggle. There were days when she felt invisible, when ministry took so much of his time that she barely recognized the man she married. The same voice that preached hope to millions sometimes came home too tired to talk. She said she once thought about walking away, not because she stopped loving him, but because she couldn't carry the weight of being the pastor's wife anymore. The world saw her as strong, but inside she was tired. Even in those dark moments, faith never left their home, but it was tested again and again. They prayed through their arguments, cried after church services, and tried to keep smiling while the world watched. She said faith didn't always fix everything. It just gave them the strength to face another day. And in that truth, people began to see something real, not a perfect pastor, but a family fighting to survive the expectations that came with his name. Every word she said peeled away the illusion the public had built for years. It made people realize that maybe what we all feared was true. The Evans family wasn't perfect. But what no one expected was how much honesty would make their story even more powerful. Her confession didn't weaken Dr. Tony Evans's legacy. It made it human and somehow even stronger. After her words spread, people everywhere began to talk. Some were shocked, some were moved, and others didn't know what to believe. But before anyone could settle their thoughts, more of her story came forward, and it went even deeper. She spoke about the moment everything started to change for their family, the day when tragedy entered their home and shook everything they had built together. This was the beginning of their greatest test of faith. In 2019, Dr. Tony Evans lost his first wife, Lois, the woman who had stood beside him through decades of ministry. Her death wasn't just a personal loss. It was a blow to the entire church community. People cried, prayed, and tried to comfort him, but deep down, everyone wondered, could the man who had comforted millions now comfort himself? His wife later revealed that during those months, Tony was a different person. Behind the brave sermons and calm voice, he was breaking piece by piece. He would stand before thousands with strength, but when the doors closed, he would sit in silence, staring at her photo, whispering prayers only God could hear. He often questioned if he could keep going. The world saw a preacher. She saw a grieving husband. There were nights when he couldn't sleep, when his hands trembled before writing his next sermon, when he begged God to show him how to move forward. She confessed that there were moments when even she wondered if he would ever be the same again. People thought his faith made him unshakable, but she revealed that it was his pain that made his faith real. Then came the part that caught everyone off guard. When Tony remarried, some people celebrated, believing God had given him another chance at happiness. Others whispered that it was too soon, that he was trying to fill a space that could never be filled. The woman he married, the same one now speaking, didn't shy away from those whispers. She faced them head on. She admitted that marrying a man who was still grieving such a deep loss was never going to be easy. There were days, she said, when I questioned if I could ever step into the same story that once belonged to another woman. She knew she could never replace Lois. Instead, she realized she wasn't meant to. She was there to walk with him into a new season, one that carried both joy and the shadow of memory. The pain of comparison was constant. Wherever they went, people looked at her and thought of Lois. Church members smiled politely, but their eyes carried quiet questions. Was she as kind, as wise, as perfect? It felt like I was living in someone else's story, she said softly. But still, she stayed. Through the whispers, through the quiet judgment, through the hard days when Tony struggled to balance his past and his present. Instead of running from the pain, she faced it with grace. There were moments when she wanted to walk away to escape the weight of being compared to a woman the world still adored, but she didn't. I couldn't fill the space Lois left, she said. I was never meant to. I was meant to help him heal. That simple truth changed everything. It was in that healing that their marriage slowly became something new, not a replacement, but a continuation of grace. Tony's sermons began to sound different, softer, more human. People said his words carried a kind of broken beauty, as if every sentence was shaped by both love and loss. His wife saw it too, the shift in his spirit, the deeper understanding in his voice. But even then, challenges didn't stop. Rumors began to grow again, this time about his health. People noticed he was older now, slower, quieter. Some said he looked tired, others feared something worse. And when his wife was asked about it, she didn't deny it.